And I will call the meeting to order at 7:02. We have somebody have a flag?
Yes.
Oh, David's got his flag, so if you'll
Yeah.
please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Yep.
Public input. Do we have anyone with anything to say? Public input? Okay. Seeing as we have none, we'll go on to correspondence, which I don't believe we have any. Kathy, there was nothing that came up anytime recently because you left all that stuff in the mailbox, which I picked up earlier today. Approval of meeting minutes. So I'll make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes from our meeting of November 9, 2021. I need Dave Olson seconds. And does anybody have anything that they need to correct or update in the minutes from our last meeting? We're all good? If you ever have any questions on anything, you can always go and look at the recording or listen to or watch the recordings. They're in the archives, so it's easy to check all that out. So let's vote on the meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? Dino's got to abstain, I think. Yeah. Okay. So we should be good with that. And then meeting format, et cetera, for 2022. Kathy had sent me a potential meeting schedule, which was the same sequence as we're doing now. And so at our next meeting in December, we're going to need to look at that and accept it. But before we put that all together, I wanted to discuss, I mean, Kathy is usually really good at making sure, like if it's a holiday, she takes it out and then we decide whether we're going to have a special meeting or not. But as input in giving the minutes, approving that, not the minutes, but improving the meeting schedule, and then giving that to the town clerk, we also have to talk about a location and format. And I emailed with Matt Knickerbocker and he said it doesn't have to be, we could say, if we're thinking that we're going to continue, because our options are, again, go in person only, do hybrid, or do virtual only as we've been doing. We don't have to put like a meeting room or anything. We could say that if we're thinking that we want to continue virtually for now and say that having an in-person meeting in the future would happen as per the agenda at the municipal center, just say at the municipal center. Because if we were to try to have hybrid meetings, we would end up needing to be either in meeting room A or the Board of Ed conference room or meeting room D, which is kind of hard to get because you have to have the electronics and the TV and all that. Before we started the school projects and using the Board of Ed conference room, we met in meeting room B that does not have a TV monitor or any of the electronics. But they're looking at installing something there soon because more and more boards are using that to show reports. And again, if hybrid meetings continue, especially since we meet on a Tuesday night, it's often hard to get meeting room A. So does anybody have any ideas or input on our, not the schedule specifically, we're going to stick with Tuesday nights and et cetera, but the format? You know, we had discussed it back in August. We said we were going to discuss it each month, and we've pretty much decided, at least for, through the end of the year, to stay virtual. Does anybody have any? Dave?
I would recommend continuing virtual until we have a good reason not to.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. I mean,
positive rates at under 2% or something like that.
right. I mean, that's one thing we need to look at is the rates are rising. And I know that was, again, a concern that several people had back when we discussed this in August. Again, going virtual would require us to make sure that we secure a space at the municipal center that allows us to do that. We could do that in the future, but for now, I think we'll stay with what we have. And so Kathy, I think we need to word that location thing to say, continue virtually, unless otherwise specified when the agenda is presented, and it would be at the municipal center somewhere. So I think that would be okay.
You know, Nancy, the use of the Board of Ed room, I'm sure won't be a problem with Dr. Carver as long as we schedule it and we, we make sure we take care of it. I'm sure that's not going to be a problem.
Right, and we would do that far enough in advance, so that, I mean, I know there's a lot of other things that used to happen in the conference room. I don't know if they still do, other than Board of Ed meetings. I know sometimes you have daytime meetings or late afternoon meetings.
We have training classes during the school day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. That's weird.
Who's that, me?
No, Dr. Carver.
Oh,
That happens to my computer sometimes too. I start meetings and nobody can hear me. Oh, it's a problem with her computer. Okay. That's what she just put in the chat. Okay. We can use the
Thank you.
conference room if needed. But we would obviously, and Kathy's been really good about doing that before we had to go virtual, checking in to make sure that the meeting room or that the Board of Ed conference room is available ahead of time. And I think there was only maybe 1 or 2 times when we had to either, the problem with meeting room B was when we first got started with the school project, people had to schlep along their PC projectors. And I think I remember Perkins Eastman and somebody else bringing a PC projector and having to project it on the wall, having the great electronics in the Board of Ed conference room to share reports and such has been kind of spoiled us all, but it makes it easier. We don't have to have paper to share with everyone. So, so at our next meeting, we will have that schedule. It will get sent out ahead of time. We'll have to review it and everybody, I guess we have to accept it before we then post it with the town clerk. Any other input on meeting schedule for next year? Okay. So we're going to go into our old business. So we'll start with the school projects and get a construction progress and also a schedule update. Ken, do you have that for us?
I don't really have anything to report for this meeting.
So does that mean nothing happened in the past 2-3 weeks?
Correct. We did submitted on the slope for Rockwell, so that's pending. And we also submitted on the lawn areas, which is pending review. So, but there hasn't been any physical work going on. On the 11th of November, there was work being done for the water main, and they could not find the lateral, so they couldn't cap the water main at Rockwell. So now it's with the water department to see what they think.
So on that, because that was on my list of things to ask about. So that is something obviously that got done in the last 3 weeks that you would report about. I stopped.
It
I
kinda
stopped
got
up there
done.
that morning. Huh?
Yeah. They explored, they looked for it, but they weren't able to actually do the
Right.
capping. But yeah,
I stopped up there while they were working and there were a bunch of earth mover guys, Justin from the water department. And again, they were just digging and kind of moving over a little, digging more. They exposed the gas line, they exposed the fiber optic conduit. Stayed away from that. We're really careful about it, but and you can, if you go up behind the dumpster at Rockwell, you'll see the big area that they opened up and then filled back in, which hasn't been graded or seeded yet because I think they don't know what's going to happen yet. Justin from the water department was told, oh, you'll find it right away. But that didn't happen. So question, Ken, during the process of having that area dug up way back and lines being installed, et cetera, the capping was supposed to happen at that point, but it was done inside the building, correct?
They did do it inside, yes.
But the town has said that they don't want it done inside. They want it done outside, wherever that lateral is.
Yeah, he had said that, but I'm not sure if he's changing his mind on that or not, because, it couldn't be located.
Right. And is this Chris Baldwin or someone from the water department?
The water department.
So it's
yeah.
Kelly. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll have to wait and see what they say. And I guess they need to find out. I've actually spoken with Geraldine about this a couple of weeks ago. I don't think we need to spend more time, energy, et cetera, digging around and around and around. If they can find the location, then they can dig it up and we can get it capped.
Nancy, can I say something?
Bob,
If you are going to leave it in the building, Ken, it needs to be secured a lot better than it is now. Because when they started the demo, they started to take all the bracing away and cut away some of the interior piping. So if that section that does penetrate into the building, that'll need to be secured a little bit better than it is right now.
It's a stub up from the floor. It's only about 8 inches high. So I think what you saw was the old setup. That
Right.
was, and they've since taken that old setup out of the building.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected then.
Yep.
All right.
yeah, so that stub's been capped. We just don't know if there's, and again, there must be some ways. I don't know if you can stick a camera in there while the water is in the pipe and have it crawl around until you find that lateral, but that I think would be on the town to do, not on us as part of the project until we find out exactly where it is.
Okay, yeah, because Earth Movers had underground surveyors out there, and the water department was out there that day. They looked everywhere for it.
Yeah, yeah. And you would think that it's something that they would have on record, yet at times when things were dug up and moved or dug up and changed, if somebody didn't take photos or do some measuring and et cetera, then the exact not going to be on record anywhere. All right, so in the minutes from the last meeting, it was talked about that the slope at Rockwell was reseeded, but it wasn't regraded as far as what I saw yesterday. Because yesterday I walked around the site with Joe Collada and Joe Costa, and there will be and since Ken talked about the submittals being given, they're going to have to take all that into consideration and do a field report for us, which, since it's been just a day since they did all that, I think they're still working on it. And it'll have to be compared with the SLR report to find out if there are still some things outstanding. My observations, the slope coming off the playground at Rockwell is that if it was reseeded, fine, but it wasn't regraded. It needs to be regraded. And you can all meet me up there at noon tomorrow if you want, and we can run around on the slope in front of the kids at recess and see if we trip and fall, which I'm guaranteed we will, because it goes up and down. There's holes, so you had to be careful walking around. There's, a lot of grass is established there, but it's still very ruddy and lots of holes, and it's very uneven. And that it can't stay like that. It just cannot stay like that. So we'll see what we get out of the reports from Perkins Eastman and comparing that to report from SLR, and then the submittals from Rizzo. Anybody have any other comments on that?
Just to add to what we've
Go ahead.
asked Perkins Eastman to provide in consultation with SLR is a report on what they observed on site, a response to the latest emails from Rizzo, which was actually a response from Earth Movers and Priority as to what they've already tried to accomplish. And then if the report reveals that there are still quality issues, we've asked Perkins Eastman to respond with a plan to correct those issues. And honestly, at this point, we think that there are still issues to be corrected, but it won't happen until the spring. So I think that what we'll be looking at is a plan of attack and then a potential schedule for when to start the remediation work in the spring. But we do have to wait for the report from Perkins and SLR.
Yep. And I'm thinking it's going to be ready for our next meeting, which will be 2 weeks from now. So we'll have that. We should be able to look at it and discuss it. Dr. Carver? Yep, still can't hear you. It's your computer. Sign language? If you need to maybe get on the phone and sign in on the phone, and we'll just go back to, because I actually, so Dr. Carver's wondering how it's going to affect closeout.
So
It will.
that is something that we'll have to strategize once we do get this report and we understand to what extent rework needs to happen in those areas. But clearly, like as I said, we're looking at, grading maybe could be done now, but why? Because we can't replant it until the spring. So we will have to come up with a strategy for how, first of all, to incentivize the contractors to correct the work in the spring. And then, yes, what does that do with closing out the contract globally and being able to apply for the final reimbursement from the state? But I think I'd rather wait and see what the report is and to what extent work needs to be done. And then we can talk about those strategies at the next meeting as well. We'll prepare a recommendation between all the consultants.
Okay.
Because like you said, Geraldine, I think it's going to affect the state closeout, and it's going to affect closing out
Yeah.
contracts with Perkins Eastman, with Rizzo, et cetera.
I think we all recognize that we'd like this to close out. We'd like to put a bow on it all. So
Yeah,
yeah, we all want to do that, and we'll see how we can do that in conjunction with the work that still needs to be done.
okay. So a couple other questions though. So we have an invoice that I guess we're gonna have to look at later with the electric work for the scoreboard.
It's complete.
Right, but question is, does the scoreboard work? Does anybody check it?
They have a few bulbs that are out.
So that's them, yeah. But it actually comes on, it lights up, so.
Yeah. I witnessed that.
Okay, that's good to know. And the soccer field, which we walked around on too, that'll be part of the report. I know they reseeded that. The grading doesn't look too bad, but there's still a lot of kind of weedy stuff, but I don't know. We'll have to wait for the report, I guess I don't know if it's been checked out by Eileen, Earl, or Park and Rec. Which also brings me to thinking about, does anybody know where we are with the CO? I'll have to check in with Chris Baldwin and find out where that's going. Because I know he still needs to get sign-offs from planning and zoning, health department, fire marshal, et cetera. And I don't know what the process of that is. So I'll check on that. Oh, and Bob, do you have an update for us on the roof at Rockwell?
Yes.
Because you had sent something out. So can we Geraldine, do you have that to share?
Yep. Yikes. Um,
Speaking about Mr. Baldwin, I went down there yesterday to speak with him. From what the roofers are telling me, and they actually verified that they sent him the paperwork in order to start the warranty. So that has to be, the roofer says he needs to get that. So I'll jiggle his bell again tomorrow.
So who's it again that needs to get the,
Baldwin.
has to get the,
Baldwin
war-
said- Yeah, there's apparently some sign off that Baldwin has to do and give it to the roofer in order to start the warranty from the manufacturer.
oh, okay.
All right.
So then we've
that-
got to,
it's just- Yeah. So it's just basically paperwork. And so according to the roofer, young developers, they said that they sent Mr. Baldwin the email stating that we need, what particular paperwork he needed. They just haven't received it yet. And that was a while back. So that's what I'll remind him tomorrow.
okay. So we just need to kind of poke at him a little bit to get
Sure.
that done. And so what they found was something that wasn't an issue. So
Yeah.
the electrical stuff wasn't electrical that was done by the solar, or is it electrical?
Installer.
So-
Okay, the HVAC.
Okay,
Why-
not
why
the
don't
solar
you let me
stuff.
explain? What we found.
Okay.
What we tried to do is we had, the custodian showed us exactly what part of the building that they were experiencing the leaks in. Now, what we did was we matched that to the actual where the location is on the roof. And that's where you see photograph number 2. Right in that spot right there, directly below it is room 200B. And 200B is the classroom that we had the leaks in. So now what you're seeing is we're tightening up these conduit fittings. They were just sitting there. They were not even threaded in. So we secured that. The roofer checked the boot seal to make sure that was nice and tight. And then we went over to the other side of the roof. That's where we saw that there's a couple pieces of ductwork that are not caulked. And we feel that that may be an area where the water may be penetrating in. Now, that particular area that he's kneeling in right there, that area there pools, the water pools there. So, and that's why we have water dripping, a day or so after the rainstorm, because it's actually just draining out. So we had a rainstorm a couple days back and nothing came through that. So, we should be getting some rain this weekend. So hopefully we'll watch it very closely. Hopefully that problem's gone. And then we'll look on the other side after we do some caulking. Now, what the good part of this is both of these possible locations, no panels, no solar panels had to be moved, which was good because they're easy to get at. The spots were easy to get at. And the roofer didn't see any tears or rips or seams separating. So he felt pretty good with that. So we'll just keep going with caulking and making sure that we're all set. Now, I have a question, Nance. Do you want my service contractor who services my belts and filters to just caulk some of these holes up? It's probably just a few labor hours to do that. Or do you want to try to bring, Action Air back and then, and we're not talking about a lot. We're talking, a handful, and each area has, you got to look for them and you'll find them. Each area's got 1 or 2 possible locations.
Right. I'm wondering, to keep the warranty intact, did anybody check in with either Young or John's mail to find
Yeah.
out?
Yeah, that's how they found out. See, that's how Young's developer found out. He checked with the Johns Manville first before he came out, just in case they did find a product problem. And so that's how he found out that Mr. Baldwin didn't have the paperwork sent.
Okay, but to keep the warranty intact, who should do the work?
Well, none of this has to do with roofing. The warranty on the roof just needs to be, when the solar folks started the work, the warranty went on hold while work was being done on the roof. This paperwork is what will reinstate the warranty that was previously approved and submitted. None of these leaks have anything to do with the roof, as it turns out. They have to do with the HVAC contractor and inadequate sealing of ductwork and roof penetrations for connections. So
Right,
I
but
think,
so
it is work and a cost that the subcontractor should bear. However, at this point, I would probably go with Bob having his service people take care of these issues, because I don't have any confidence that we're going to get Actionair back to resolve these things, unless Jim or Ken have a different view.
Can I ask a question?
sure.
Does this have any repercussions from what originally happened when they took the roof off and moved the ductwork around and all that? Is that any part of it? Do you know?
Dave, these are the supports that hold up the ductwork, and where they actually sit on the boot.
Done. Yep.
Okay. I mean, these are possible locations according to Young's developer. They said that these are possible locations. They should be caulked up. So I was going by his recommendations on
Nancy,
the
Nancy,
metal
I-
pieces.
this is a no-brainer. We'll go after Actionair. We'll get him to, if he's got some, if Bob can identify the locations for us, we'll go after him. We'll get him back out there.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. I think that sounds like the better approach, because they were responsible for it in the beginning.
Exactly.
And I think, so I wonder too, though, if Bob is saying that they're showing that there might be areas where it's a little low and the water's pooling there. Is it a huge area, Bob, or a small area? Can it be?
No, that's right near the roof drain.
Oh, okay.
So it's expected to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And
So I
then
thought,
they also popped the covers of the roof drain just to make sure that the
There was
rubber
nothing-
was sealed nice and tight around it, and that all
Right.
looked good.
okay. I thought you meant it was pooling around, like the one picture there where you see the penetration coming through.
Well, that's where it pools, where it's
Right.
supposed to pool. And that's why you see a little bit of raised cover there. If the water gets that deep, we've got more problems than that.
Yeah, true. Okay. So Jim and Ken are going to get Actionair out there to do some caulking, sealing, et cetera. And then we're going to go from there. We don't have to move panels, but we also need to get paperwork. Paperwork in place for that warranty.
Nancy,
kinda where-
my thought was, if we can just rule these two problems out, so the pipe connections and then the spots where it needs the caulking, and then just monitor to see if there's any additional leaks. I think if we take these two areas out of the equation, we can better see if what we have. But
Sure.
right now, none of the leaks are in any areas where the solar panels are. But that is an area where you have to walk in and around, like they're doing right there. It is a high traffic area. So I've got to keep a very close eye on that. So taking care of what we know first, I think is the better approach.
So, but there aren't, like where you see them walking in the photo, there's not walk pads there.
Well, the walk pads are under the panels.
Mhm.
The original walk pads were more towards the center. You don't want people walking on the edge of the building, so it's more
No,
towards the
right.
center.
So
With that-
are the walk pads now covered by the panels?
Majority of them are, yeah.
With that being said, Bob, you brought up a very good point. You're now walking close to the edge of the roof. So what's the OSHA guidelines? Do they have to put up a guardrail? Do they tie off because they're within 10 feet of the edge of the roof?
Well, that's
When
why
they
they had
go
to
up
put the
there-
davit up. Well, they put that davit up, so do they have to tie off onto the davit if they're going to have to walk there?
Well, as you see where they're walking right now, they're actually heading down to another couple sets of rooftop units.
Yeah.
So that's a path that will have to be taken by the mechanical guys once a month as they check out things.
Ah.
But that's a wide,
Which
the picture's a little deceiving. It's a wide area there. I don't
Okay,
know the
well-
exact measurements, but it's a pretty wide area.
Okay, well, I guess we're just gonna have to keep, as the town, not as part of the project, but as the town, we might have to keep an eye on whether we need to, when make sure that they know where the davit is and tie off to it, et cetera. But if it's wide enough, maybe we need to put some walk pads there too? Or is that gonna create drainage issues?
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. I think let's identify where the high traffic areas are. And maybe, as time goes on, I may drop some more, some pads down there.
Okay,
I mean, originally, the walk pads were laid out to provide access from roof access points to mechanical equipment, right? So
Mhm.
we've changed the circulation patterns on the roof. So they likely will need to be relocated or new pads put down based on the solar array, so.
but who'd be responsible for getting that part
That
done?
is part- Not the project, so.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
you want some good news? We, well, they received their copy of the go ahead and start up the solar panels. And when they did that, it was a nice sunny day, as you see right there. The building went on 100% solar, and which was cool. They were off the grid there for a little bit. And so they do work. So,
That's good.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's good stuff.
that's good to know.
Yeah, the track house was 100% for a couple days straight.
Great.
Yeah.
I think you'll find that, especially in the summertime. I have times when my electric bill is $10, and that's just the delivery charge going back and forth between me giving to the grid or the grid giving to me.
Hmm.
So there's no electric usage, May, June, July, August, September, sometimes October. So it's good that they work. All right, so Rizzo's gonna get Action Air back to take care of whatever ceiling needs to be done there, and then we're gonna keep an eye on it. Make sure there's no other points that we need to deal with. At
Sure.
some future time, we may need to deal with some walk pads, but that'll be down the road.
Hey, Jim,
Um,
if you can hear me, can you make sure you let me know, and I can point out the areas that I at least know of?
Absolutely, Bob. We'll coordinate that with you.
Thank you.
All right, so Ken and or Jim, are there other outstanding things that we're looking at, waiting for something to show up, waiting for something to be installed, or have we gotten everything settled there?
No, there's, the only item was that column that was being fabricated at John.
Okay. And is that still outstanding?
Yes,
Okay,
due in, I think it's due this week, so I'll check on where that is.
okay. Anything else anybody else has questions on, or et
Well,
cetera?
Hey, Ken, thank you for having Mazzy come out and take care of that door at Johnson. Now, is this handle broken, or is there something that we need to do on our end?
No, we had Accurate Lock come out because
Accurate, okay.
Masters couldn't do it. So I didn't get to see it yet, but I'm hoping that it's been working since they're out there yesterday.
Yeah, I looked at it today, and just in case I had to report it tonight, but no, I looked at it today. It looks like it's functioning, but I was just wondering if there was something you want me to do with that.
No, I think they should be all set.
Any other questions anybody has for Ken or Jim on the construction part, schedule, et cetera? So site work / landscaping is a big question mark, which we're not going to know about until we get all the reports together and the reviews together. So again, we'll discuss that at our next meeting.
So Nancy, it sounds like that's very critical, this next meeting. Because we really need to have some guidance as to when
Yes,
we can close things out.
right.
So we can't really miss next meeting in terms of having the information so that you can make some decisions.
Right. Let me look at the calendar here. So we're December 14th is our scheduled meeting.
Okay,
So everybody knows then to have some, get all the reports together and get them out as soon as we can, so we can all review them. And then if we have decisions to make, et cetera, we can do that at the meeting.
okay. And then we'll have a plan.
Okay, anything else? If you think of something, we'll go back to it. Otherwise, we'll, generally, I think we're finished mostly with the project, except for the outstanding report. We got that roof thing, the column. I don't know if there's any other outstanding things that Dr. Carver, Terry, or Bob have been made aware of from staff at the schools. I think things are kind of moving along. One thing we did note walking around the schools is that the playgrounds are very well used. Kids are having fun on those playgrounds.
Yeah, nights and weekends too.
Yeah, every time I drove by Rockwell, you can see them out there. There's tons of kids and parents out there. It's fantastic.
And you can see what, there's, we were noticing the mulch is like really worn in certain places. So there's, yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Carver just put a note on the screen there. At night, there is a lot of activity on the playgrounds themselves. And we were just made aware of a picnic that went on behind the Rockwell area, the bus loop, and which, we're going to be doing some signage, try to, help keep the people out of that. But,
So they just went up there
a lot
and
of the
set up.
playgrounds are hidden,
Yeah.
they're in the buildings, and that's the problem.
So they just went up to the bus loop area and a big group of people just kind of did
Right,
some
yeah.
kind of tailgate sort of thing in the,
Yeah, they had a
I
cookout.
understand they set up grills, Nancy.
Yeah, they had
Really?
a cookout.
so.
Do you have a keg?
What the hell was that?
So is that like, do the police kind of wander through there periodically, and can they do something about it, or?
Talked about it yesterday at our security meeting, and we're looking at if there is going to be some type of signage that's going to be needed, or some type of statute that has to be put on that sign, because they, the police, they can't enforce anything if it didn't have 5, 6 signs.
Right.
So
So
we're in the
going
process
up,
of getting the wording.
got it. So going behind like that, the gate that swings open so you can get behind Johnson, there's no gate or anything. They just went in there at Rockwell and just set everything up. They didn't even have to get through a gate. They just went to the bus loop and,
Through the bus. loop,
okay
correct.
then.
Yeah. Yeah.
All righty then. That's we can all have our next party there. And is that an area
The
that,
end of project party will be in the bus loop.
yeah, while the buses are going to drop the kids off, or,
Yeah.
yes, and it is COVID friendly. Okay.
Goodness.
Is that area, do you have cameras that see that area?
Yeah, that's how we knew about it.
So can you find out who it is and have a little chat and say, please don't do that again?
Yeah, I'm not sure if the principal found out anything. It was kind of dark. The images were.
Okay, and was it not kids? It was like families with, wow.
It sounds like, yeah, it sounds like there was a after hours type of thing. And once the sun went down, there's a little bit of light out there, and they took advantage of it.
Okay, upgrade to infrared cameras.
Yeah.
All righty then, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Okay.
It's funny, but it's actually kind of nice knowing that people are enjoying it, but that's a little too much.
Yeah.
Right, especially if like you got alcohol and stuff going on and then
Yeah.
something happens and
Well, there is no alcohol allowed on the school campus, so there's no vaping, smoking, alcohol allowed on the school campus. So
Grills.
we do have to monitor that, and
Grills and fire. Oh, boy. Okay, then. Never a dull moment. Joe Collada, you should have kind of like figured that into your design plan, right?
That's a first for me, grilling on the school campus. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're ready to look at budget stuff. Oh, picnic tables. We got to remove the picnic tables. Is that what you're saying? I know, they make it more attractive and everybody wants to kind of hang out.
Yeah, but like she
We'll
said,
just have to-
yeah.
It encourages it, but we might have to discourage it with some signs.
Can you rent it?
Yeah, rent.
Supplement the budget.
There you go. It's a moneymaker.
All right, so we have Johnson here.
So budgets, yeah. So typical budget tracking, we are closing in on the end, at least at Johnson. According to the last RISA requisition, there are four subcontractors that have yet to bill out, and they're working on getting their final invoices. RISA is working on getting final invoices from those contractors. So we are 99% billed out on the construction project alone, and then 95 on the total project. That's reflective of the amount of contingency that's still left, because of course the only things that we're really that are outstanding other than construction are consultant contracts. Everything else is pretty much invoiced and paid. And at Rockwell, of course, the numbers are a little different only because of the lack of contingency, but again, 95.5% on the total project has been invoiced and billed out, 90% on Rockwell. Rockwell has probably about maybe 10 subcontractors that have yet to bill out. So, but I know that Rizzo is working on getting those final invoices as well. We would have been hopeful for a final requisition in for November to review in December, but that's probably unlikely. Hopefully the final invoices can be in December, except for this conversation about what we're doing with the landscaping at Rockwell. But we are working to close out as much of the project financially as possible. The current combined contingency analysis and budget analysis still has us at just short of $650,000 under the total project budget for both projects. Really what's outstanding are additional services requests and these bond adjustment numbers that may or may not be accurate or not. The only real change on this spreadsheet from last month has to do with the scissor lift, but we'll talk about that in a moment. The quote that the committee approved at the last meeting turned out to be rescinded, I guess, from the vendor. So Bob has provided us with another quote from another vendor, and we'll look at that in a minute. But with that taken into consideration, as I said, we're still trending about a little less than $650,000 under the combined budget for both projects.
Good. Good. So any questions or anything on budget stuff?
Back up.
The only thing I have is, Geraldine, I didn't send it to you yet. I just basically got it. Was the trailer. I got the trailer quote.
Okay.
And, that was 6,500 for a trailer. All right, so that
Well,
number now will be off. So the actual
Okay, that's
number
fine.
is 65.95.
65.95 plus so let's go and look at that right now. So this is the new scissor lift quote. So 65.95 on top of the 22,406.
This is a brand new one, delivered,
The scissor lift itself is brand new?
brand new. Yeah, and it's out of Connecticut.
That's
Okay.
a great price.
That's our friends
Bigger
and
lift.
family discount.
Yeah.
Oh, because we're a municipality, that's why we got a better price on it.
Yeah, I see that discount for municipalities. And that's delivered. I see that.
Mhm.
And is it the same kind of setup with it has little outriggers so that you can
Oh, yeah.
kind of stabilize it, et cetera?
Mhm.
Okay. And then,
The newer ones have that base down in the bottom in between the two wheels. That
Yep.
base actually comes out. It slides out, and that's your outriggers. Instead of having arms, the whole base comes out. So it becomes very stable.
great.
And the
And
fact
then-
that it's going 37 feet in the air.
Yeah,
And then does the trailer have to get delivered also from somewhere, or is that more local?
Right. The trailer is out of also Connecticut as well. And that's 50. Yeah, it's rated for 5,515 pounds, which will be all right for this unit.
Mhm.
And it's 65.95. It's an all aluminum trailer, brand new.
So the trailer plus the lift, now we're at $29,001.
And the cost of the trailer includes either, does it have to get delivered or can someone go and,
That's
Grab it.
something he didn't write that on here, but I'll give him a call tomorrow. But I have a feeling that that's delivered.
okay. Because you've got to be able to tow it around somewhere anyways, so you could go get
Well,
it, I
yeah,
suppose.
from
Not
Rockville to
you, somebody could go get it.
But the nice thing about
But
it,
if it's
this
gonna be-
trailer has a standard hitch, so it'll fit on the back of our van, no problem.
Yeah.
Our company van.
Right, so you can move it around.
And this is also going to be available if the town needs it at the municipal center. So that it's going to be kind of universally used.
Right, so any of the other town vehicles that have a,
Standard hitch.
yeah, can use it, move it around, et cetera, from wherever it's stored or from wherever it was used last time to bring it to wherever.
Well,
Okay.
I'm going to store it at Johnson. It's going to be based out of Johnson.
Okay. So do we need to approve the amount separately? Like, you don't know if that includes a delivery charge, so for the trailer, should we? I'm thinking we want to get it all approved. So we want to say, just in case there's a delivery charge amount not to exceed, perhaps?
I would add that in just to cover.
So Geraldine, you had said $29,001.
Yeah, exactly. So make it even 30,000, not
Yeah,
to exceed.
not to exceed 30,000.
Perfect.
I will make a motion that we approve an amount not to exceed $30,000 for the purchase of a scissor lift as spelled out in the quote that Bob got, and for a trailer to transport the scissor lift as spelled out in the quote that Bob obtained for us.
Gladly second that.
Dave seconds. Any other on it or questions, etc.? I actually just have one that popped into my head. This is available now. It's not a supply chain. We're going to have to wait 6 months to get it.
No, the lift itself is in stock, and
Great.
the company is actually holding it for us.
Okay. So once we approve, you can kind of get a whole, I don't know, do we have to do a purchase order or something, or? how do we-
Yeah, he's going to require a purchase order. So he said as long as we followed up with some form of agreement that we're going to purchase it.
Right. Okay.
He deals with the
Great.
town all the time. So this guy, Mark, he said, whatever you need him to do, whatever paperwork you need him to do.
Okay. All right.
The trailer, I'm not sure. I got to call that company separately.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments on this? All in favor?
Right?
Aye. Is anybody opposed? So that is done. Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
So that's that. And then we have professional services, additional service requests. I don't have an update beyond what I talked about last time. So what I'm going to suggest is that we will get our subcommittee together, Dave Olson, Roy and John Perna, and figure out a time when we could meet to make sure that we're the attorneys have done their talking, et cetera. And I want to move forward and get further progress on this. So I'm going to suggest that we have our subcommittee, we can make a time and date, et cetera, to do something soon for the next meeting, so that we have something to hopefully bring forward to the commission and discuss at the next meeting. That's all I have on that. I think we just have invoices and stuff left, unless anybody else has any other construction items that they have questions on, or they feel, even if it's coming from Geraldine or Joe Collada or Ken or Jim, if you have anything else you need to let us know, do it now, or we'll get into invoices. Invoices. There we go. I'm getting mine out so I can make notes, etc. All right, so this is all the work that had to be done to get the scoreboard hooked up again.
Yep.
And when I was out wandering around with Joe and Joe yesterday, you could see they had trenched an area, obviously on the other side of the access road, where we had already put that underneath the access road, down and over to the junction box, etc. So there's some grassine and hay thrown down there. So remind me of, this was something that was existing. So it should have stayed existing, but it didn't. So who's paying for this?
So, well, I think what we had decided previously when you approved the quote was that the project would pay for this. This work was somewhat of a gray area where the drawings did not specifically say to preserve and salvage these conduit lines. And in fact, there were notes on the drawing that led the contractors, particularly the electrical contractor, to demo everything related to electrical systems at the building. And the control and the tie-in for this line were
on the
in the
outside.
building.
Yep.
Yes, on one hand, it didn't say take it off. On one hand, it didn't say leave it there. So
Right.
Since this was an inconsistent and somewhat nebulous direction to the project contractors, the recommendation from our side was for the project to pay for this, but to not pay the project electrician to engage Lucido at
Right.
a lower cost, because we did have a change order for this that was much more expensive. This was a lower cost and probably a quicker and easier job. And
Okay.
the $11,244 is exactly what their quote was. So.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we approve the CEDO invoice number 109663 for, as specified on the invoice, running power to the dugout so that we could power the baseboard or the scoreboard.
Second.
Dave Olson, seconds. Any other questions or discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is anybody opposed? That's done. And throw another one up there. Perkins Eastman.
Perkins Extended Construction Administration. Yeah.
And this is for the month of October, so I'll make a motion that we approve invoice number 68962.07.0-8 for Johnson School Extended Services Construction Administration in the amount of $2,516.25. Dave Olson, Yeah, I got a couple of seconds going on. Pick one, Kathy. Any questions? All in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Done. And then Perkins Eastman for Rockwell. Make a motion that we approve Perkins Eastman invoice number 68961.06.0-8. Rockwell, again, extended services, construction administration in the amount of $1,320 or $26.75. Got a second? Dave Olson seconds. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Done. So with these, we're obviously going to have another, I guess, to Joe Collada, another one for November. We may have one for December. And then are we going to be looking at, depending on what comes out of the site report, looking at something? I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
Probably,
Yeah.
yes.
We actually had
Okay.
a discussion about that today. It's probably going to be a matter of both consultants identifying some hours that can then be reserved for the spring, March, April, whenever the work goes on. But yes, there will undoubtedly be some time needed to be spent.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right. So then we have STV. All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve invoice number 900222836 STV. Again, probably for the month of October. Yes, for the month of October. In the amount of $2,530. Johnson Extended Services. Dave Olson seconds. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Done. Next one. STV for Rockwell. I'll make a motion that we approve invoice number 9022837 for STV for Rockwell School Extended Services in the amount of $3,048.50. Dave Olson seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. Is there anything else that we have to deal with tonight?
I don't know, we're gonna purchase some outdoor grills for Rockwell. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Outdoor gas-powered grills, some coolers,
Oh,
nice,
goodness.
nice lighting. What will people think of?
You know,
I
one
just
good
would-
thing, they cleaned up.
They did.
So-
They didn't leave mess there.
No, they didn't, which was good.
Was this over like Thanksgiving break, or was it?
Actually, I don't even know the date when they happened, but apparently it was last month.
Sometime
Yeah.
within, yeah. Well, it'll be curious, like if you can sort of identify who it was and find them and have a little chat and say, what were you thinking? But,
Yeah.
and you can report to us at the next meeting, right?
Okay.
Oh, too funny.
Yeah. All right.
But at
So I
least you
think,
know they like it.
well, they obviously do like it.
Yeah, so we
Where
did
would be-
good.
Where would be a good place to have a really large picnic? And they went down to McCoward Park and the pavilion was taken, so they came up to Rockwell School.
Well, it's got a better playground,
Yeah, true.
you know?
It does have a better playground.
I originally thought it was the bocce ball people, but it turned out not to be.
Ha,
Oh, that would make sense.
interesting. Interesting. All right, so school folks, thank you. Everybody else got to stay on because we have a few other things to discuss. Our next meeting will be December 14. And as Terry said, it'll be important for us to discuss some strategies for finishing up and what we have to get done now and what we have to wait till spring on, if possible.
Okay.
Where we go with that.
Thank you again for the lift. That will put it to very good use.
I think it's gonna be, if you said you've rented them in the past, 2 or 3 times a year, plus I'm sure they rent them at the municipal center, in the
Yeah.
gym and the GP room, et cetera. And probably, I don't know if there are any other buildings that are that tall. I think it's gonna be well used by the town.
Oh, it definitely
Yeah.
will. Yep. Thank
Next
you.
fall, I gotta talk to you about my gutters, Bob. We're gonna,
All right, thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you,
All right,
Bob.
see
Thanks,
you on the
everybody.
Good night,
14th.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Yep.
Bye,
Good
everyone.
night,
Bye.
good night,
Okay, good night.
good night. All right, so for the police station, for the firing range, again, I got another phone call from, as I had said in my email, from Chief Bugner asking about getting an RFP out, and I wanted to have a meeting to look at the plans, et cetera. He says he has them sitting on his desk, which we haven't, it was Thanksgiving. We didn't get anything done with that. But, and I'm gonna have to email him to find out. So if he has plans, there are actually paper plans sitting on his desk. If we were to put an RFP out tomorrow, let's see, we need to have some plans to be able to give to any contractors who are interested in bidding the job. We do a walkthrough, obviously. But, one thing we should find out is, are there an electronic copy of the plans that can be shared as part of the RFP? Or are we going to have a bunch of them printed up and they're going to have to come and pick them up? We have to figure that out. And one of the reasons I wanted to look at the plans is to make sure, are they complete? Are they, I personally, as chair of the commission, wouldn't put an RFP out without seeing the plans and knowing that what we're putting out there is ready to go. But we also could consider, and I know John Menti, you've brought this up before, about having, as part of the RFP, saying, here's the plans, and you also have to check and make sure they're complete, and if they need to be either updated, et cetera, then have that be part of that process. And I don't know if anybody's ever done that as part of what they do for their
Yeah, I would
on
say
their-
actually that me and Mr. Perna should take a peruse through the mechanical side, electrical side.
Yeah, Yep.
And anyone else who wants to join in,
right,
just to make sure, because we don't want to get stuck on the back end.
right. Well, let me see if we can get something together again. What I had asked Chief Bugner was, because it would be probably Lieutenant Libertini and Lieutenant Durkin, who would be because Libertini was the one that really put the whole Action Air part of it together. And that Action Air part is like, that's solid, it's what it is. And that needs to be part of what goes out with the plans for an RFP.
Mhm.
So I had asked what would be a good time or day to meet, like, are they on a shift that, they're done at 3:30 some afternoon, and we can try to get out of work early or something and get over there and sit with them before they go home. I think the suggestion was going to be made that Lieutenant Durkin be made a part of this as a voting member of the commission. I don't know as Libertini can, because he doesn't live in Bethel. I think you have to be, in order to be on the commission and be a voting member, you have to be a resident of the town.
Mhm.
So we'll have to get the Board of Selectmen working on that. So let me do some emails, and as far as I know we probably haven't had a lot of heavy rain since the last time they did the fixes that they did. So I think one question that did come up from someone was, or a couple people actually asked, if putting some sort of sealant on the inside of the block would be a good idea. And I did ask that question of both Downs and Brian Humes, and Brian said that putting something on the block, like a paint or a finish, to make it more, I don't know, to make it look better, let's say, on the inside, would be okay, but not an elastomeric coating like what's on the outside, because the wall wants to stay breathable on the inside. So any moisture that's kind of trying to get out goes into the open cells down and out the weep holes, or into the interior little channel that's made. So that's good to know. I'd be curious to see what the plans call for, because I'm not sure if these plans are the ones that were initially put together by Brian Humes, because the firing range back then was an ad alternate with probably not with the whole actionnaire part of it. It might have been a little less specific, but again, that would be really good for us to take a look at some point before we start throwing RFPs out. And the other thing that I thought about, which we may need to have, especially for the actual action, or not actionnaire, action target, sorry, it's action target. The action target part is any of parts of that going to be affected by what we keep hearing about with supply chain issues? You know, are we going to start to try to put this together and find out there's one piece that they can't get for 6 months or something?
Yeah.
And I don't know, you know, having maybe Lieutenant Libertini can be in touch with Action Target and see what issues they may have supply chain wise. And so we know that in advance.
Right. None of the equipment has been completely purchased yet, correct?
No.
Okay.
That's the other thing I need to hopefully meet with Chief Pugner on is looking at the there's money outstanding that we owe to Downs. And then anything that's left it's not a lot, but anything that's left would be something that could go towards the firing range. And the other thing I have to find out before we go and throw an RFP out is, are the funds secured? Is it part of either this grant money that's come into the town, et cetera, and that's been set aside specifically to be used on the range? And the amount would have to determine whether we have a referendum or not. Oh, actually, if it's the grant, we might not have to. So I'll be emailing, and we'll hopefully have something where we can have a discussion before our next meeting. And then the municipal center renovations. Again, I don't have an update. I asked, probably a little too late for being able to get an answer for the meeting tonight. There had been talk about the town using this group, Gordian, and it all goes through the state contract system. And there was a discussion between the Gordian Center representative to talk with Eileen Earl and Brad Herring from finance. And I don't know how much further it's gotten. It almost sounded like in discussing this with that project, with this Gordian group, they were, the town being the town needing to have some kind of cost. If you just can't start a project without a cost, getting a cost together was supposedly the next step. And I don't know if they've gotten that together or not. So I have to find that out and get that together. Hopefully we can either know that for the next meeting, and if it's going to go through the whole state contract part, how are we as a commission involved? Does that get done through us, or does it get done outside of us? I'm not really sure. So that's, I think, about it. Unless anybody has anything else and like I said, at the next meeting, we'll have to look at our meeting schedule and approve that, and then it'll be posted to the town clerk. But Kathy will send that out in advance, correct? All righty then.
Motion to adjourn.
John Menti. He
You
jumped
beat
in
me
ahead
to
of
it,
you.
you old fart. You beat me to it.
John Menti seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, all.
Opposed? Good night.
Good night,
Thank you.
God bless y'all. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.